develop some sort of attitude of gratitude and
Mm.
be grateful for the small things you got. If you wake up in the morning, be grateful you're alive. If you can see, be grateful you got sight.
Yeah.
If you have a blanket, be grateful you got a blanket. A lot of times, it's the little things that mean a lot.
Yeah.
And some of the things, too, that I discovered is look at everything as a blessing. I got arrested so many times. That's a blessing. That's,
Wow,
that's
man.
a blessing. And so I appreciate every little aspect of life, and I try to squeeze every little bit of toothpaste out of that tube.
So straight up, God is your witness. If you could go back and change it, would you change it or not?
Nothing.
Come on, man.
Nothing.
Serious?
I own a mansion. I'm a teacher. I wrote a book. All of that. The book is my life. How could no. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to be. I can't alter it. I don't want to. I don't want to.
Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com, where first and foremost, we are a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction for yourself, loved one, or addiction recovery, I should say, for yourself or loved one, or you're actively in recovery maybe a little while or a long time, you're going to find all kinds of topics related to addiction, recovery, and really living a happy, successful, and sober life at Recovery Today. My name is Rob Hanley. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and thrilled to be interviewing another very interesting guest. Super cool guy, contacted us. He's written a great book. And he is a director of nursing, and he's also a college professor. He wrote a book that is called From the Park Bench to Park Avenue. People are used to hearing from Park Avenue to the Park Bench. He wrote a book called From Park Bench to Park Avenue, and he has over 21 years of sobriety. I'm thrilled to bring out my new friend here, Anthony Brown. Anthony, thanks for jumping on, man.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So we're kind of getting into it a little bit before, I said, hey, let's go ahead and start the interview. I wanted to save some of it because I'm really interested to dive into a lot of the issues that we have here. It's the kind of issues that I've talked about with people, like, well, how do you do this, and how do you fix this, and how do you do that? So from the park bench to Park Avenue, man, I guess, and congratulations on 21 years of sobriety. That is quite an accomplishment. Tell us a little bit of your story. I mean, I was really intrigued by what you wrote, by what we've exchanged so far. So, tell our readers and our subscribers a little bit about who you are.
Okay, well, I'm Anthony, and in some rooms I'll raise my hand and say I'm Anthony, I'm an alcoholic, and some places I'm Anthony, the director of nursing. Some places I'm Professor Brown. Out in the streets I was just whatever you call me, and I tend to tell people that I went to a party at 14 and I came home at 37, and that's literally true. I do have 21 years of sobriety, which I'm grateful for, but it took work. My story, basically, I got loaded, drunk at a young age, little kid, mom drinking. I got to see that, so I got to enjoy that. And somewhere that switch flipped, and I just had to continue to drink. And so at the age of 14, my mother couldn't handle me being in the house because along with drinking comes a little discourse. I didn't want to listen to no rules. She had rules. I said, okay, well, I got a good idea. How about I just leave? And I guess she was tired of what I was going through, and she said, okay, well, adios. And so I started living out there in abandoned houses and things like that. I'm from Ohio. 14.
And where did you grow up? I know you're in L.A. now or in Southern California. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was homeless there. It gets cold in Ohio. We have the 4 seasons. It snows. And so my early journey, I stayed in abandoned houses. I used to collect little wooden crates and build furniture out of it. Whenever it gets cold, I burn the furniture. The smoke come out of the chimney. Police come, send me away. And that's how I survived. I continued to drink and use.
That's rough, man. That's rough.
It's when you're in the middle of it, you don't pay attention to it. As long as I can stay.
Think of a 14-year-old boy leaving a home. I have an 18-year-old boy, and it hasn't been easy with him. You know, great kid now. You know, a lot of challenges early on, and I'm thinking in my mind when you're saying that you're 14, obviously I'm thinking of my own son, and stuff got pretty tough and rough about 12, 13, 14. I'm thinking about basically a little kid leaving the house, much less someplace like, you know, Ohio where it's freaking life and death outside. I mean, how did you have friends that you immediately, when you left the house, were you in a gang or something? Like, how did you just go on your own at 14? And I mean, you got to be one stubborn son of a gun, man, too, at 14 years old, dude. I mean, I think most kids would be terrified.
Well, I come from a dysfunctional family. I learned that terminology. And when you come from abuse and you make a choice between pain and pain full, which one do you choose? The mental pain seemed to be a lot easier to deal with than the physical pain. But once I got to have some Boone's Farm and eat some Quaaludes, then the pain wasn't there. And so that's how my life was. As long as I can anesthetize myself, inebriate myself, I was okay. And I just continued to do that. But like I said, I didn't know where I crossed that line where I had to do it. And I was able to survive that way. At 15, I took off and joined a carnival. So that made life
really?
Yeah.
You were a carny?
I was a carny.
All right.
Yeah, and so that made life easy because it gave me a little cash in my pocket. It gave me a ride that I could use as a roof over my head. It gave me company, and it gave me something to do for 6 months out of a year. And so I was a carny till I was 18, and then my friend said, hey, let's go to California. Okay, well, I don't have nothing else going on. And so we jumped in the car and drove out here.
That's how you got out to California, huh? Just, okay, I'll go out there?
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea because where I'm from...
But you're still homeless at this time, right? You're just vagabonds, right? Like,
no, pretty much. Everything I owned, when I packed it up, was in a duffel bag. And so he just threw it in the back of his car and drove out here, and I became homeless out here in California.
And that's what. So now what? You're about 16 or 17?
I was 18 when I came out here.
Okay. So what happened from there?
Well, I came out here. Of course, I know where to find drugs at. I just look like that kind of person. I thought my version of California, from what I've seen on TV, were like the Beverly Hillbillies. You know, I thought I was going to see palm trees, mansions, swimming pools. That's not what I see. You know, we drove past all of that and ended up in Linwood.
Okay.
And I found a park in Linwood, and I found this juice that you can dip a cigarette in and get ultra high.
Oh, wow. I don't even know what, I'm trying to think what that is, man. What is that?
Oh, PCP, Sherm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I was a Sherm head for a while, and, you know, being out there, I learned how to inject drugs. It didn't matter to me what I put in my body at that point in time. It really didn't. And I did that. I didn't know until later on in life what I was trying to do was hide from myself. But you can't hide from yourself when you are the problem. And so I went through my drug days there. I attempted to get a job because I quit school in the 8th grade. And I attempted to get a job at a fast food restaurant, but being homeless for so long, the only skills I had was how to lie, how to cheat, how to steal. I knew that 28 grams made an ounce. And so,
right.
Yeah, and so I knew that. But it's hard to get a job with that kind of knowledge. But somebody was gracious enough to hire me at a fast food restaurant, and that gave me free food. But the problem is that allowed me to steal off the till. And once the heat got on, then I decided to move to another city in California.
Wow. So how long were you homeless total?
23 years.
23 years you were homeless.
Yes, from 14 to 37.
So the way that you survive basically is just selling drugs, like lie, cheat, steal, do a little bit of work here and there. Is that kind of how?
That's pretty much the side of it. That was it.
Did you reconcile it all with your family at any time, like while you were away or anything like that? I mean, that's a long time for somebody that's 14 to, 23 years. Like,
no, back in the early years, 14, 15, 16, I would go to the carnival in the summertime, but in the winter, the carnival was over. And so every now and again, I would drop by and see my family, but there was really no connection. I know I had some old resentment against my, I guess, stepfather. When I was 9, me and my sisters woke up. My mom had got shot in the head. We seen her laying on the floor. He was there in that situation, and then he disappeared. I held on to that. When I was 18, I went to visit my mom. She married him. It was just, I didn't want no part of it.
Well, first of all, just human to human, I hear a story like that, like my mom got, finding your mom. I'm just sorry, man. I'm sorry that that happened to you. I really am. It breaks my heart, man.
Well, she lived, so.
Well, still, we talk about veterans that come back from traumatic things overseas, and I think that the amount of trauma that you can experience as a child in family situations is pretty much as horrific. So in 23 years, I've had these conversations with people before, and this is kind of how I said, well, let's save some of this for the interview. Like, it seems like it's impossible for somebody to go from being homeless for that amount of time to, as you said, from Park Bench to Park Avenue. Like, how does that happen? How do you ever get yourself out of that situation? Because not only are you completely comfortable, and that's just how you survive in lying, cheating, things like that, but it's also the system, and it's just knowing this place and that place. Like, how do you pull yourself out of that?
Well, I was fortunate because I wanted to be a drug dealer, and so I continued to go back to the same place, and I would get arrested. They would send me to prison. I'd get out of prison, go back to the same place, get arrested, go to prison, and every time that would happen, I would sit in prison thinking, well, I know something isn't right, but I don't know what's wrong. And so I thought about that because when I'm in prison, I tend to think a lot. And when I'm in prison, I tend to get closer to my higher power, who I choose to call God. And so that happened. And I had my interpretation of God as being a rescue God. If I do too much dope, like, God, please don't let me die. If I'm going to court, God, please let the judge give me a break. If somebody pulls a gun on me, God, please don't let me die. Things like that. And so one day, I was hanging out at my favorite spot in Costa Mesa, and a police officer that worked the same beat who continued to arrest me over all these years finally asked me one time, do you want some help? And I don't know if I was just sick and tired of being tired and sick. I don't know what made me say yes, but I did. And he had a friend that worked in a treatment center, that owned a treatment center, and they had connections with the judge that continued to sentence me. And so one day, instead of me getting sentenced to prison, they sentenced me to a treatment center. And that's where things start to turn around.
What did you discover, man? Again, it's so long. 23 years is such a long time. By that time, you're addicted pretty much all that time, too. I'm assuming, like, I'm just thinking not only of the physiological kind of things, but the mental kind of stuff. Like, it seems impossible for somebody to turn things around from that far down to, working and being sober. What was the pivotal point then in treatment?
When I was in treatment, in the beginning, it was rough because I come from a place that's really dark, hanging out in back alleys, staying up all night, and I'm thrust into the sunlight of everybody being happy and running around excited. And then I got introduced to my first 12-step meeting. And when I went to that meeting, it was interesting because I went there and I was on 30-day lockdown from a treatment facility, but I read the big book. I don't know if I can mention that, but I read that. And I read that book like I would read any other book, Louis L'Amour, Daniel Still, whatever it is that I pick up in jail. So I read the book that way, and so I figured I understood what was in that book. And so I went to my first meeting, and I remember raising my hand, and I go, my name is Anthony, I'm an alcoholic, and this treatment center is mistreating me. They're making me do chores. I have to make up my bed. That's not cool. I have to eat hot dogs. It's not fair. And the next guy shared, he said, my name is, and he told me his name, and he looked at me and he goes, you're a whiny little bitch, shut the fuck up. Excuse my language, but that's what he told me. And he hurt my feelings.
You can drop those you can drop that. So you said, you're a whiny little bitch, shut the fuck up, is that what he said?
Yeah, yeah. And he hurt my feelings. And then I asked him to be my sponsor. And that man introduced me to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And somewhere in the middle of those steps, I found the God in the miracle business.
Wow. I love that, man. Somewhere along the line, I found a God in the miracle business. So what was the first, again, so I guess as I introduced you, I introduced you and I say you're the director of nursing and you're a college professor. It just seems so alt-universe to somebody, again, that's why I keep kind of pressing, like, wow, it just seems impossible, man. Like, I don't even know what the odds would be that somebody could be homeless and an addict for that long and then be a college professor and director of nursing. And as I said, I looked at, as I was going through stuff, I looked your book up. I want to talk about the house. That was one of the things that caught my attention because you've purchased a house in your hometown or nearby, Cleveland area. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that house is a house that's free. All the donations from your book are going to your house, right?
Yes.
And it's for addicts, correct?
Yeah, it's for addicts, alcoholics, mentally ill, whoever wants some help. That's what Brown Manor is for.
Free.
It's free.
So I want to come back and like highlight that some more, but like I'm just by the whole difference from like here is a guy. We always say Recovery Today magazine is a magazine of hope, but I have to say and I try to just tell the truth and admit it. Like it's hard to look at that and go, there's hope. I mean, really, just to be real about it, man. I know that like anything can happen, but I just find that to be so miraculous. So like, if somebody's out there that knows somebody that is like that or has the same kind of thinking, like, help me to overcome that, or whoever that person is. Like, I mean, are you a 1 in a million? Why are you a 1 in a million? Like, how did you do this?
Well, why did God pick me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know in 2 years of sobriety.
I mean, can he pick anybody? I mean, I know that he can, but like, I'm just kind of looking for you to go like, to breathe hope. If somebody, I mean, that's so extreme, honestly, too, man. I've known people that have been homeless, but most everybody I've known that has been homeless has been like less than a year, or a few months. 23 years, it seems like you are so indoctrinated and steeped in. It just seems impossible, man.
Well, what I can tell you what I did, and I don't know if other people, if they do the same thing, they can replicate what I got. But at 2 years of sobriety, I was sitting at a park, and I've always had some idea of God, things like that. And I sat at the park, and I go, you know what, God? I know cars run on gas, and I know that this bench is solid. I know that for a fact. Prove to me that you're there. I directly asked that question, and I got this total, overwhelming comfort feeling within me that it's just indescribably delicious.
Indescribably delicious, okay.
Yeah, and with that feeling came this overwhelming amount of faith and a different philosophy and a mindset that I tend to carry with me. I look at life, I got a perspective that life is finite. There's a beginning and there's an end.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed. We're going to leave this planet.
Yeah.
And what we do in the middle is stuff we get to play with.
Yeah.
Now, it's up to you if you want to get attached to it or not, and that's been my philosophy. I was taught with the help of the rooms, little things like do the footwork and lead the results up to, your higher power. I was taught that, and I follow that philosophy. I was taught everything exists upon the strength of his belief. I believe that God is in my life. I believe the things I get to experience is God shots. I believe that, and I believe in commitments. And I learned commitments from the 12-step room. My first commitment was I washed ashtrays. And I'm like, why? What does this have to do with anything? And he said, just do it. And from ashtrays, I did good enough that I was allowed to wash coffee cups. And I start feeling part of, trusted, wanted, and that, along with everything else, helped transition my overall thinking. I look at my journey because I had an 8th grade education. Now I have a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing.
You're a professor, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And the God that I found that's in the miracle business just opens up doors. All I do is take the next indicated step. And I've been doing that with as much energy as I put into getting loaded. And the results are what they are.
So if you were talking to somebody right now, and maybe you are, that is homeless, maybe a short time, again, I find, maybe it's 25 years, I don't know. What advice would you give them if you were able to sit down and, we got our coffee, man, like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that everybody gets a break. Everybody. There's always a window of opportunity. The question is, are you mentally available to take advantage of that opportunity? And look for the opportunity. It's going to happen. There's going to be whether somebody sitting beside you saying, hey, here's a pamphlet. Go check this place out. Or look for coincidences, because I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in everything planned. If somehow you're crying and you're praying and you wake up and you're in front of a mission, go inside. Once you get that opportunity, take complete advantage of it. Understand that as human beings, we're going to make mistakes. We're designed to make mistakes. We are. That's the only way we can learn. So try it. You have a mistake. That's okay. It's better to take 3 steps forward and 1 step backwards than not to take any steps at all.
What do you say when somebody they think that they've squandered their opportunity, that they could have done this, and maybe they feel like they deserve it. Like, I had everything, and then I fucked up, and the whole, like, make your bed and lie in it type of a thing. Like, I've missed so many exits. That was my exit, man, right? You're driving down the road, and then you could have taken that exit to Niceville or, something, right? And, like, it's almost this undeserving type of a thing. Because, and again, I kind of wound up a little bit in the homelessness because I feel like that there's kind of this cycle like that. But what do you say to somebody that thinks like, I fucked up too many times, man. I get, I don't know, or maybe it's a subconscious thing. How do you speak to that?
Well, I look at it as if you're alive, you got a chance. And again, we get to live in this whole spectrum of life. Maybe your screw up or your mess up is a stepping stone to you getting something far greater than what you had. You just have to teach yourself that nothing's forever, and don't get caught up in that mindset. No matter how many times you get a setback, just understand that this is just part of life, that we continue to move forward. I mean, I went to school, okay, with the 8th grade education. I got my GED in the county jail.
Got your GED in jail. Yeah.
When I first went to college, it was foreign. But I made a commitment. This is what I'm going to do no matter what. I tell myself, and maybe people out there listening might want to understand, that whatever you start, finish it, regardless. And so I started going to school. There's some classes I failed, but that's okay. I kept going back. I failed statistics 3 times. And what I did was, each time I learned that maybe I should get a different calculator. Maybe I should take better notes, But I always remind myself, I got the opportunity to do this. And the same thing when you're out there, even if you made it big and you lost everything, at least you get an opportunity to understand humility.
Man, you were a cool guy, man. It's no wonder that I, when we had first connected, you're just full of a lot of really, a lot of pearls of wisdom. There's a couple of things I want to kind of highlight real quick, and then I want to jump into the book and why you wrote it and a little bit more about the house and stuff like that. But I think that you had said that everybody gets a break, and that if you're available overall to see it. And what pops up into my mind a little bit is like, your job then is to be a detective. So if you are so close-minded that you're just thinking, it's funny here, you asked me if it's okay to, cuss or profanity, and here I'm the one that's dropping all the F-bombs. I was going to say, like, if you feel like your life is, you're just so fucked, like everything just keeps happening, and why does this shit happen to me? I will tell anybody listening that, that kind of mindset, honestly, is going to get you nowhere. It's almost like you would think, like, if you're sad and feel shitty enough, that finally God is going to go, okay, he's had enough, you know, type of a thing. But I don't find that it happens that way, man. Like, literally, you just feel worse, and it just makes things worse. So if you can get a glimpse of light where you could say, maybe something will happen. I love the challenge that you're saying, sitting on a park bench, like, if you're real this, but then there's one part of it is like, it's your job to be a detective is what is in my mind, like to look for coincidences. Like, is that pamphlet a sign? You can kind of get a little bit too much, like maybe this is a sign, maybe that's a sign, but at least you're looking. Is that kind of what the whole idea about being available is what I want to say?
Yeah, that's part of it. And another thing is develop some sort of attitude of gratitude. And be grateful for the small things you got. If you wake up in the morning, be grateful you're alive. If you can see, be grateful you got sight.
Yeah.
If you have a blanket, be grateful you got a blanket. A lot of times, it's the little things that mean a lot.
Yeah.
And some of the things, too, that I discovered is look at everything as a blessing. I got arrested so many times. That's a blessing.
Wow, man.
That's a blessing. You know, and so I appreciate every little aspect of life, and I try to squeeze every little bit of toothpaste out of that tube.
So straight up, God is your witness. If you could go back and change it, would you change it or not?
Nothing.
Come on, man.
Nothing.
Serious?
I own a mansion. I'm a teacher. I wrote a book. All of that. The book is my life. How could I no. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to be. I can't alter it. I don't want to.
So you go to school. I'm thrilled, by the way, that you said that. I really threw that down. I'm thrilled that you said that. I mean, that's really inspiring, man. So how did you get a mansion, by the way? I mean, like a nurse and a professor doesn't get a mansion. Like, how'd you get wealthy then?
Well, I've learned that you don't have to be wealthy to purchase property. First of all, the whole mansion thing, and it's called Brown Manor. And that came about is I have a brother that's in Ohio that's on the streets.
Yeah.
And my brother has
today on the streets.
Still today on the streets. And that's because he's in his disease, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've been there and I've done that. Yeah. And when he called me, he told me he was living in this abandoned doctor's building and he had no place to go. And I told him, do me a favor, find out who owns that building and find out how much, and I'll buy it for you. You know, I don't have a whole bunch of money. I don't. You know, but I'm willing to work. And I have 2 really good jobs. And so he couldn't pull the trigger on that. He could not. And so because he couldn't do that, I got frustrated one day, and so I said, okay, I'll just buy a house back east. And so I looked up online, found that place, and told them that I wanted to get it. And lo and behold, as God has it, I didn't get it when I wanted. I didn't get it the way I wanted to. Because in my head, I thought, okay, well, if I gave them a lump sum of money, they'd sell me the property. Well, that's not the way it works. Mm-hmm. You know. And so I just let it go, and I just continued to pray. And then a year later, I looked on Craigslist, and that same house is there for sale by the owner. And so to me, that was God saying, okay, you're supposed to have it. And so it took me a year to pay off the house.
This is the part about being a detective, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I pray for the knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. And I pray for Him to do things in His time, not my time.
Yeah.
And so when it came around, the guy who owned the house, it was a total godsend. He goes, look, I'm going to sell this property. I don't care how you buy it if you want to buy it. I'm 3,000 miles away. I bought a house without ever even looking at it. Ever. Because I have complete faith that it's going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. Now, mind you, when I flew out there this year to finally look at it, I went there at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I walked into this house that's been abandoned for a couple of years, and I went, holy shit. You know, and then I just stopped and go, okay, God, what do you want me to do? You know, then the next day, I looked at that house and go, oh my God, this is like the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life.
That's so awesome, dude.
It was cool. It was cool. You know, and so that's how Brown Manor came about.
Brown Manor. So take us a little bit to the book then, man. Like, I mean, this is like one of the things when we started talking, it's like, I'm writing, why did you write this book? Because I know that you're donating all the proceeds from the book to pay for the house. Did you think, like, I need a way to pay for the house, I'll write a book, or how did the book come into be, and how did you name the book, too?
That was one of the goals. Once I got the house, I decided that I'm going to need some revenue to fix it, because the house was built in 1960, and it needs refurbished. Right now, we're working on a roof, and it needs a furnace system. I mean, it's just the whole 9 yards. And so I decided, okay, I'll contribute the money from the book to the house, because none of the stuff is mine anyway. When I die, I can't take nothing. It's not mine. It's God's stuff. And so and what came about the book is I've been in meetings and I've been sharing so much, and people hear my story, and somebody told me, hey, you should write a book. And I'm like, okay. So I wrote a book. I wrote a book, and it was really interesting, because when I was out there in the streets, I always told people I was going to write a book, but I couldn't do anything because I'd rather get loaded and get arrested. But now that I'm sober, and they said, why don't you write a book? And so I wrote one. And then, I mean, every little thing is a God shot. I wrote the book. I'm getting orientation to the college. One of the classes, or one of the workshops I was in, just happened to be someone that said, hey, I'm a publisher. I'm like, really? I have something maybe you can look at. And the fascinating...
The detective, right?
Yes. And the fascinating thing is, once I connected with this lady on our first interview, after the interview, she goes, can I ask you a favor? And I said, what? She goes, can I pray with you? I went, oh, this is it. We're on the money. On the money. And ever since then, everything just flows. All I do is tell the truth, do the footwork, leave it up to God. And in my head, I try to stay humble, and it's because I'm supposed to, because this isn't my stuff. It's his. Yeah. And so I thought, okay, the worst case scenario, I can say I wrote a book.
Yeah.
The best case scenario, Denzel Washington is going to play me in a movie. Yeah. And
you got me on that one, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's the way I think. And so I sat down, I wrote the book, and I just wrote my story. And that was it. And I thought, okay, I'll get a couple of books, run to my car, go around to some meetings, tell people I wrote a book, and so I never knew, never in my wildest dream, it would take off.
Hey man, maybe Denzel Washington will play you in a movie. Funny that you mentioned Denzel Washington. I think it was yesterday. I was with some friends and we were talking about our favorite kind of movies. And my favorite kind of movie, by the way, is where bad people get punished. That's what I really like. I like where it's some kind of like, whether it was like Death Wish when it was back in the 80s, where all the bad people, the reluctant hero just kills everybody. I'm sorry, I have issues, but. It came up to Denzel. We were talking about Denzel Washington in The Enforcer, I think was what it was. It's my perfect kind of movie. Like, he just wants to relax and be chill, and then something happens to some nice people that he cares about, and he just freaking kills them all. So, but when it led into this whole thing about Denzel Washington, and the conversation was, has Denzel Washington ever made a bad movie? Ever? Like, we couldn't think, there's not one movie he's never made a bad movie ever. So, if Denzel Washington is out there and he picks it up, dude, you're like... definitely on Park Avenue.
But who's gonna play you?
No, I can't. Nobody can play me, man. I'm like the tiny nothing part of anything. But anything that I can do at all in any kind of a thing, I just want to help and contribute, in any way. And I know that our readers feel the same way. One of the biggest analogies that I've always made. Stories I've heard is the starfish on the beach. There's thousands of starfish are going to die on the beach, father and son walking, right? The kid's throwing it in the beach, and the dad says, that's really not going to make any difference, whatsoever. And the kid ignores him and is throwing more and more. And he goes, it's not going to make a difference at all. I go, well, he throws another one. He says, it made a difference to that one. So I really feel. Just in the core of my being, that every person is precious, every person is somebody's son or daughter, brother, sister, and that everybody has value. And the truth is, we can't help all the starfish, man. Like, I wish we could. I want to know, what do we? I moved on from the homeless stuff, and I know we probably should be winding down here because we've been going for a while, but I have to ask, like, is there a way to solve the homeless issue? Like, we've become so used to seeing tents on our streets, and I'm trying to think what this medieval disease was that showed up in Los Angeles. I will, you know, it hasn't been around since like the 1500s. Typhus. That's what it is. It was in the news. They're like, nobody's had typhus anywhere in the world, you know, hardly, and now it's in L.A. We got frickin' typhus. I've heard Joe Rogan talk about down on, what is it called, Skid Row.
Skid Row.
And he goes, it's like The Walking Dead, man. There's like tens of thousands. I think there's like 50 or 60,000 people in L.A. that are homeless. So it's over, and it's in all of our cities. When we were kids, there was no homeless, really. You call them a bum or something like that, or they were. So is there a way, or I mean, is this like the new normal? There just always be homeless? Is there a way society to get out? And if so, what are the keys, man? Like, you're the most qualified person I know. I've never talked to anybody that's been homeless as long as you.
Well, the homeless issue is really complex because there's a lot of people there. What worked for me, I was individualized. You took one person, put him in an environment of 30 people doing the right thing. I became part of that environment. Can we do that on a large scale? It's almost impossible. Now, we feel that we can house people, but what happens when you house everybody like-minded together? You're going to behave the same way. Yeah. That's why that theory isn't working. And so, in a land of utopia, because there's more of us not homeless than there are homeless, what if everybody just took one person?
Yeah.
That would resolve the issue. But on a realistic level, education is going to be really important. It's our mindset that we develop, because if you approach a problem like, oh, well, I feel sorry for somebody, then you're not going to give them 100% of who you are. You're going to do enough to caretake, but not enough to care.
Do you give them money and stuff? And if so, is there some that you don't give money, some that you do give money? How do you know they don't have an apartment and they drove over in a frickin' Bentley and parked it and they got a sign? What do you do with that?
Well, first of all, none of this stuff is mine. It's God's stuff. It doesn't matter who I give it to. I usually go by who has the neatest sign. You know, that, or it all depends. I can walk outside of a 7-Eleven and see somebody just standing there, and I'll give them whatever's in my wallet. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody ever asks me for help, I'm there. I'm fortunate enough to work in the field where I have a bunch of resources. I have done lectures in places that are sort of really not structured for success, because when you take someone in for help, there's a law that says, well, we can shelter you, but we can't force education on you. We need to do something to help instill self-esteem, because once you start feeling good, then you develop self-worth, then you can take off and get into action. That's the whole thing about Brown Manor was going to be, I feel, completely different than a lot of other places, because the house is 9,000 square foot. I'm only going to put in maybe 6 or 7 people to live there. Everything else is going to be meeting rooms. There's going to be upstairs for other people traveling, coming in, that's working the program, so that you can intermingle with the people down there and just show them a new way of life. You know,
this is a free, like, is it I don't think you're detoxing. This is actually like a transitional, like, who goes there? And what do you actually do there with them? What's the plan, or what are you doing, and what's the plan? What is it?
It's going to be a resource center. It's going to be a resource center. I will allow, and again, I can come up with all kinds of ideas, but what God chooses is up to Him. I just go with the flow of His feelings.
Yeah.
And so my goal is 6 people live there, and what you're going to do is you're going to start feeling good about yourself and start supporting the house. Whether pick up a small chore, you know, whether go lead a group, be part of a group, 12-step community, and be involved. And then once you feel comfortable enough, then you can go to some place in the town and get employment.
Yeah.
And then, you know, start taking yourself, transition back in, and we're going to have the philosophy that we all are capable of paying taxes, so pay taxes.
Yeah.
You know, be part of society, because that's what happened to me. I was given a hand up, not a handout. And I think that's really
Are you
important.
affiliated with any organizations? Are you going to?
Anybody can help. I don't want it to become a nonprofit because I just have my thing about that. But it's the people's house. It's and God's going to take care of it. I really believe that. And once I'm gone, it doesn't matter. At least I can say, hey, I got to play. I got to do something. I got to be part of it. And I got to help people.
So I got one question about it. When you're describing the person that became your sponsor, I was kind of thinking about there's real issues and then there's like I don't want to say imaginary, but like there's so many big, huge things in the world right now. And then when we're kind of doing this right now, there's parts of the country that have been burning down, and like it's kind of a binary type of thing. Like there should be even something that's small compared to something that's giant. You could say I just can't tolerate that type of a thing. But I'm thinking about like your sponsor saying, "Shut up! You're whiny little bitch," or whatever it was that they're saying. Like, what are your thoughts, us being kind of the same age, about, I think that there's a generation of kids, or maybe they're in their early 30s or whatever, and if you're like that, hey, don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you what I think, of whoever it is, not you, but whoever's out there that's, that age group. But I think that it's like maybe that people are so outraged, and there are things truly to be outraged about and go, that shit should never happen. Obviously, I'm talking about the George Floyd thing. But in terms of like just being ape shit about, I was putting this in context of like there's actual slave markets right now in Libya. There's homosexuals get thrown off of buildings in the Middle East in different places. There's internment camps, fucking concentration camps in China. Even a small thing, maybe it comes back down to the starfish, is intolerable. But what are we kind of? Is there hope for that kind of a thing too? Are we going to have peace kind of in the U.S. and or is it a matter of perspective too, like being grateful? Like, what do you see the key to our societal issues are now? You're obviously a very peaceful kind of, and you seem like a real enlightened kind of person. Like, what are your thoughts, man? Like, is there a way out of this kind of thing?
Well, nothing lasts forever. Okay, the human body will burn itself out. That's just its natural course of action. You can take your fist and you can squeeze it hard and continue to squeeze it. Eventually, your hand's gonna relax. We always have issues. We're always in a war somewhere. Always. The thing that scares me is throughout history, all superpowers fall.
Yeah.
Maybe it's our turn in the barrel. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I think there's too much anxiety, too much stress, too much fear. And that's what fuels everything else because your body has to get rid of that. Your body somehow. And so people are reacting to that situation. And I don't discount what people are doing. God bless them. Let yourself be heard. But that doesn't last forever. The way society is right now, it always calms down. Look at the 60s. Look at Vietnam. Look at the Civil War. Everything calms down eventually.
Yeah.
It's just having to go through it. That's going to be the key because whatever you start, there's a beginning.
Yeah.
And somewhere, all the dust is going to settle. And then what's going to happen? And that's where I think a lot of times, even though we feel things are wrong, even though we feel things are unjustly, sometimes within our own individual self, we have to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing to make it different? That's the whole thing.
That's really good, man.
Yeah, if I can lead by example by being at peace, if I can lead by example of being out here trying to help people, if I can lead by example of sitting down, understanding that, sure, you're upset, let's talk about it, and if you don't know how to communicate, let me take the time to teach you how to do that, then every one of us can take that step. If we start doing that, things are going to get different. But right now, we are so polluted with so much negativity, and we allow that within our space. We have control over the information we disseminate.
And maybe that's what I was going to, maybe that's where I was alluding to originally when I said your sponsor, like, it seems like there's rage. There are things, just so nobody throws rocks at me, like there are things for sure that we should be pissed off about and change. But it just seems like every single thing, it's immediately like freaking rage, man. I don't know. I don't have the answers, man, obviously, but I don't even know where it honestly would go, man. It's other than to kind of bring it in for a landing and just to say, it's a real privilege. I'm really honored to speak with you. I've met and had the privilege of talking with some really interesting people, and I'm always trying to process things myself and work through, because what I was last year, what we all were in the past, is differently. Hopefully, we're evolving and changing. But I was going to say I've had the privilege of meeting and interviewing a lot of cool people, dude. And you're right up there, man. Like, I don't know what it is, but I just, like I said, I loved your story. I like you even more now. Like talking with you, you just kind of have this peace about you. And anybody that's sponsored or counseled by you, I think is really a real privileged as well. So how can people get back to you? How can they contribute to Brown Manor? What can people do for you?
Well, Brown Manor has a GoFundMe page. You type in Brown Manor GoFundMe, you'll see it there.
We'll put it in this feature here. They won't even have to go look.
Okay, and then my web page is anthonyhowardbrown.com. That's there. Facebook, of course, but or you can just Google me. I've been blessed with being able to carry the message, and again, God intervened and allowed me to sit down with individuals like you and give me the opportunity to share what I think and feel and experience. And I have the book that's out there, From Park Bench to Park Avenue, and all the information is in that. And a lot of times, even there's a part of me in every one of us. There is, and there's a part of God in all of us.
Yeah.
The question is,
I know one of the things it is, bro, is you have you have a very infectious smile, man. Like I see that big old grin. I like that guy, man. Go on. There's a part of God in all of us. I agree.
It is. It is. If we can focus on tapping into that and allow yourself to experience the reality of what you receive, then probably what you produce will show you exactly the way it is.
Really, really, really inspiring, man. I appreciate the time. I told you some of the best parts of the interview come out toward the end, man, but it was good all the way through. Your time is valuable. I appreciate it. I'm going to do anything that we can do to help you out, and it's been a real pleasure. So for everybody that's out there, you can connect back with Anthony at Anthony Howard Brown, just like it sounds, anthonyhowardbrown.com. You can Google him. We'll have the book in here. Grab his book. I'm going to get his book, read his story, and we'll have the GoFundMe. You can help him out with the Manor back there as well. It's been a real pleasure. So thanks so much for taking time.
Okay, well, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. This has been another interview by Recovery Today Magazine, recoverytodaymagazine.com. If you hang on just a second, I'll stop the recording.